Hey, my name is Remute. You're listening to the Scene World podcast.
Hey, it's the Scene World podcast. My name is AJ, and that's Jurg over there.
Right.
In a minute, we'll be talking with Tronimal. That's another Jurg Rittenhouse, and we'll be hanging out with him in a minute to talk about his new Virtual Boy album.
Exactly, called Robonaut.
Yes.
And it's the first music album for the Witcher Boy ever released, which is interesting because Jörg Ritterhaus is a German, and the console never has been released in Europe, only in USA and Japan. So quite unique there. But before though, we have some news. And yeah. Well, I got a couple of news. I saw today an announcement in a Facebook group that a team of people is actually working on making a real point-and-click adventure version of Monkey Island for the Z64.
Oh, really?
Because as we mentioned in one of the earlier episodes of the podcast, a few bit back, they released only a text adventure version of the game, and now a new team is working on making a real point-and-click adventure.
I saw something a couple of years ago where someone made like a demo animation of it, like showing how it would look. But I don't know if
the intro and the music.
Yeah, I don't know if that's got any relation to this. But it was kind of like it was kind of like the first like 5 minutes of the game where you're kind of walking around, you first get into town and stuff.
That could be actually it, yeah.
So that's cool. It's one of those things that would be awesome to see on the 64 because they've done stuff. I mean, we had Maniac Mansion and Zach McCracken and whatnot that used the same basic, the Scum engine. So seeing Monkey Island translated, it would probably look, I mean, graphics-wise, it would probably look great on the C64. So.
I'm not so sure because it was already ported down to the Amiga.
Right.
And with a limited color scheme, might be difficult to do it on the C64.
I think it depends on who the graphics person is, because, if
from what I heard, it's probably Oliver Lindau.
He could probably do pretty good then.
Yeah.
It's the kind of graphics that translate well to that because it is kind of blocky and it is kind of retro. And I think I don't remember what the resolution was on the Amiga, probably 320 by something. But yeah, I think it could potentially translate well to the C64 if it's done right. We'll see. I'm looking it up right now, see if I can see any. I'm seeing stuff from December of last year, I guess. But I think that's just the demo that I was talking about. Yeah.
Did you find it?
I found no, I think I found the text adventure you were talking about. Yeah, that's the text adventure. That was from December of last year. I don't see anything about like a new one.
Well, I can put the link in the chat. There we go.
Let's see. No. It looks like graphics are being done by the Sarge.
Okay.
Lundgren. Which is, I mean, that's a good guy to do it. On the voice. Part 1 is completely playable with all the background graphics and objects done. All dialogue, inventory system, and sword fighting is done. They're still working on character sprites and code logic for that system. So right now the characters are just white squares. But yeah, no, that actually looks really good. I'm impressed.
So
it looks like it's come V4 ported.
Yeah, just wanted to say that exactly.
Yeah. Not bad at all. I like that. I like the preview image they have.
Yeah.
So that's nice. That's awesome. I endorse this. One of my favorite games.
A lot better than a text adventure version of the game, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Okay, cool. So there's that. What else you got?
Well, there is an Atari meeting in Sunnyvale in Paris at the site of the former Atari headquarters.
Okay.
Planned for 2026, so in 2 years. There is a YouTube info video in English, and there is a forum of the project in English and French, and the Gemtos website will be updated to be in English as well. So that's quite nice. So if you ever want to have an Atari meeting in the former Atari location of Paris, France, Sunnyvale, wherever that is, you can do it in 2026.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you can see, they are inviting international guests. Otherwise, they wouldn't have contacted us, telling us about it, and making an effort of making an English YouTube video and also English forum and soon English translated website for the event. And 2 years in advance is quite ahead of planning. Yeah, but so now you can get your holidays granted for having a nice Atari meeting in 2 years in France. Yes, that's it. And also, we spoke to Julia Minamata a while ago, who is an expert on EGA graphics. And her point-and-click adventure, The Crimson Diamond, has just been released in August. So that is out there and is actually coining on the old Sierra adventure classics.
Okay.
Yeah. And also yesterday, for pre-order people like myself, early access for Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown has been started, and I couldn't play it because the server was down. But originally, for the regular orders, it's going to be released on the 12th of September. But it's nice. I mean, it's the only racing series from back in the day, from the 80s, 90s, that isn't in the hand of EA. But it's actually in the hands of Nocon from France. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be all my news.
Oh, okay. I got a couple here. Let's pop over to this right now. The 2024 Reset 64 4K Craptastic Game Competition, which I don't know if we mentioned before, but it's over. It just ended on when was that? It was August 31st, I think, or maybe late August. It finished, so it's over. The game list is out. Yeah, August 31st. So the game list is out, so you can go onto the website and check it out and download all the games. So it's a 4K game competition, and there's a lot of them. I'm seeing. Let's see. 31 games were submitted. Won by Richard Bayless.
Nice. So it was for the C64 then?
Yes. Yeah, it was a C64 thing. So that is cool and done. So you guys can check that out. We got a bit of two bits of kind of development news, I guess. One is relating to the Commander X16, which is the 8-bit guy's pet project that he's working on. Actually, it was more than him that was working on it, but there were a few people working on this. And there's this a new Wavicle has been working on the Super Peripheral, which is called Calypso. It's a card to handle most of the complaints people had about the Commander X16, which is mostly, lack of networking. I guess it's difficult to move the SD card from the computer to the PC or Mac or whatever. I'm not sure maybe it's internal or something. I guess it provides support for USB keyboards or mice, because I think the X16 was limited to PS2 devices.
Ooh, nice.
And I guess it provides some kind of a serial port, which
nice.
I guess the original X16 does not. So it's got an ESP32, little radio thing. So I guess it can do Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and whatnot. It's got a lot of options. I think he's still working on it. I don't know if it's available yet. It's being worked on. So we put a link to where you can follow that project and potentially get one if you've got an X16. And lastly, was this released? No. So there is an upcoming version of a basic enhancer for the C64 called Vision Basic. I guess it's at version 1.1.
Okay.
This was, I guess, something that the guy who made it, who is Dennis Osborne.
I only knew about Simon Basic.
Yeah, well, this guy has been working on this for about 20 years, he says.
Wow.
Gives you 100 new commands. Go back there. 100 new commands, bitmaps, sprites, characters, sound, interrupts. A lot of stuff. There's a couple of games that showcase what it can do. So you need a C64 or 128 for it. Extra 256K of RAM. So that's either with a regular RU or a Geo RAM or something, or a super CPU. And they recommend that you have at least 512K of memory, and a Turbo Chameleon or a Super CPU or an Ultimate 64 for compilation speed, I guess. I guess it takes a while to compile this stuff.
Well, the only thing I remember from my childhood was Simon's Basic.
That was one of the big ones. I don't know. No, my question is that so with Simon's Basic, okay, if you wrote software using Simon's Basic, did the person running the software have to have Simon's Basic to run that software?
I guess so.
Yeah, I see. I'm confused by how that works. Now, this is talking about compiling, so I'm guessing that it might do a kind of like a compiling it at the end and making it like it, putting it in machine language, so that you can run it without. But I don't know. Yeah, no, it's okay. Once compiled, you don't need Vision Basic to hang around in order for them to work. Unlike how it is with your typical basic expansion. Okay, so with Vision Basic, it gives you the extra commands. Then you program something with it, you compile it, and then you don't need Vision Basic to run it. And I think you did need to do that with Simon's Basic. You needed the cartridge to run anything from Simon's Basic, which kind of defeats the purpose, because who's going to release software written with somebody else's software that you need? Like, you need a prerequisite to even touch that. So this actually gives an option for, like, you could use this and not have to worry about the end user having to have it as well. So that's nice. That'll be interesting when that comes out. I don't know when it's coming out. I guess you can get it now. There is yeah, you can buy the basic package, which is $60. It's a book, the disc, and I guess it's a box. And you can also get it with a Neo RAM included for $110, or you can just get the digital or the manual rather for $45. So yeah, it's available.
Wow.
So, yeah. So
I just wish I lived back in that day again. Where you actually could buy those things new and stuff.
yeah.
Mm,
Well, you can buy this new.
right. Yeah. But then when you dream back, you always forget stuff was way more expensive, and even if you wish, you couldn't afford buying everything.
Not
even
only
if
that,
you wish.
but things were not as one of the things when I set this back up, because I went for quite a while without using a C64. I had it was just in a box somewhere. I took it around with me, but I didn't actually have it set up until I want to say 2016. And then I pulled out my old 128 out of mothballs, hooked that up, and I eventually swapped that out with my C64. But in doing so, I was like, yeah, I want to do some of the stuff that I used to do. And I go to do it, and it's like it crashes, 70% of the time, and there's problems with this and that, and it's like I forgot. And as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what it was like. It did this shit all the time. In my brain, it was like, yeah, this thing never had any problems. It never crashed. It never had a problem, because that's you remember the good stuff and not the infuriating stuff.
Right.
So yeah, hopping back into that, I'm like, wow, this thing crashes a lot. Well, yeah, it did. That was normal. You just, it just seemed normal at the time.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was very surprised because when I got the disc version of Last Ninja, which the European version, right? I got the European version, so the UK version from System 3 in a box, and I got the American version imported and fixed by Activision on a single disc, right?
Right.
So, and as we all know, because we discussed it a lot, and even people in the comments from outside of Europe didn't know about that, and I even mentioned it there. In UK, 90% of all sales were on tape, because they were half of the price than the disc version, and British people, compared to anywhere else in the world, didn't mind the loading times. Right? So that means the disc version of Last Ninja in UK, the original one from System 3, didn't sell well. Which means it took me 10 years to find an affordable copy, complete in box and not for a rip-off price on eBay, right? And when I got it, I was shocked that this is the only game from Europe on disc that I have that uses a loader that never stops the drive motor of the floppy disk. Which means, as the 1541-2 was released in 1988 and Last Ninja was released in 1987, that it was definitely a drive killer.
Yeah.
Because the drive mechanism would never stop spinning, even when you play the game.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Just wow.
And
if you imagine how much more expensive it was in 87 to replace the drive because you bought a game that killed it, just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of those games. One of my favorites was this game, and I've talked about it before, Sentinel Worlds from Electronic Arts. When I was a kid, I played that a lot. I never finished it because I lost the orange reference card that tells you how to do vital things for the game. So I used to play that game all the time, and a couple years ago, I went and I found a copy of it online. Someone selling it because I wanted to play it again, and for some reason I can never get the pirated versions, the versions you can get on online from the cracking groups and stuff. They never work right for some reason. So I wanted to get the original one without any cheats or anything built into it. So I found that, and I've been using that, and the amount of loading and disk swapping. It's like everything. There's 3 sides. Everything happens on side 3, but if you go to a new place, you got to put it in side 2. And every time it accesses the drive, it's like I guess it's copy protection, but it like rams the head into something, just and then it carries on. You put in the next one, and I'm sitting now like oh my god, I'm destroying everything just by playing this game for half an hour. But it's one of those things like I didn't, I played that game for a lot when I was a kid, and it never occurred to me, like it never seemed as dog slow as it does now. Loading every 5 seconds, having to swap disks every time you enter a new room. Like, oh my god, it's murder now. But back then it was like, this is normal.
You know what Activision did with the American version? They removed the whole loading system from System 3,
yeah.
put in their own loading system, which didn't spin the drive all the time, and had their Activision copy protection on it. And also, it's one of those few games that had proper graphic and sound fixes for NTSC.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
That never
happened. So Activision went really big on this one.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So the American version, despite not being original, is so much better than what the British had. And 90% of all British people didn't know because they didn't buy the disc version.
Yeah. Woo! I wonder how many games were actually properly fixed, because I've had a lot of games, and when I see them played on the European versions, it's like they're just slower. They work fine. It's just it's just sped differently because the NTSC machines are faster, and it's like, all these, I think the first time I really noticed it was with the game Tower Toppler, which was called Nebulous
Nebulous.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I saw, like a European version, and I'm like, wow, that's music is playing real slow, because it's just, it isn't fixed. It just runs on NTSC systems just a bit faster.
Yeah.
And I think that's mostly what they did. If anything, they just tried to make sure that it worked on both, but no one actually tried to fix it to be the right speed, because it didn't. Who cares?
Yeah, I once had an interview. It's also in Scenewald in the magazine, because it was an email interview. I interviewed Chris Crick, who was sound designer and composer at Epix, and he said in the early 80s they just didn't know about the difference. They just didn't know.
Right.
And if you play games like Zack McCracken, I actually got the American original release, and it plays on PAL in the right speed because they never fixed it, right? But what they fixed is the scrolling routine is jerky, because the only thing they did for the European release was fixing the scrolling.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But about the music, nobody cared. But as soon as 87, 88 turned around, games were probably fixed. I mean, I know it because I have the NTSC version of World Games by Epix, right? Not the alternative World Games by Gremlins, but World Games by Epix. And that game has been properly NTSC fixed, because when I run it on PAL, it crashes in the diving discipline.
Yeah.
In the diving discipline, because there is a timing issue as the game runs out of raster time to use, it simply stucks and crashes. So that means in later games, 87, 88, even Epics fixed the games. And also other games that well, there is let me think. What are the other games that got fixed? Yeah, all the newer games like Outrun got fixed. I got the American version and the Turbo Outrun. I got the American version and I got the European version, and the American version got the sound fixed, but because Runtel used a special kind of instruments and stuff, the pitch is wrong. So because you can't fix the different sound characteristics of the actual SID chip. You can only change the speed, but not the sound characteristics, which normally you don't notice it as a player. But in this special instance, it doesn't sound right. And it can't
when
be
it's
fixed.
a game, when it's a song is well known as like Turbo Outrun and whatnot, it's like you notice it because it's kind of like a universal, song.
Yeah, and there are other examples where there were special exceptions. For example, as we all know, Activision was an American company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they had British distribution, right? A distribution bureau. And the only game that was ever published by Activision that was a European release was Power Drift, which is actually the only game that is a PAL, so a European release by Activision, because it was developed for the European market. And it is known that the NTC version hasn't got the music fixed because there was somebody on the internet making a remix of the theme of the first track of Power Drift, and he was American, and that is why his remix actually plays too fast compared to the original speed of the game.
Right.
And there were other exceptions. For example, EA did hire Rob Hubbard to make the music for Skate or Die, but Skate or Die was an American game, so they fixed the music in the game to play at the right speed, but all cracks didn't know that. That means if you have a cracked version of Skate or Die in 99% of all times, it plays the music actually, how to say, too slower than normally slow.
Yeah.
Very slow. So yeah. And there is another one by Remember actually, who is a golden re-release cracking group, and they actually removed their release of Afterburner USA because the same thing occurred as to Skate or Die.
Right.
They hired Runtel to make the music for the Afterburner USA release. That means they fixed the music routine for the original game, but when they made a PAL fix for Remember didn't remove the speed fix in the music routine, which means the game has the music running terribly slow in slow motion. Yeah. So there are a few exceptions. There's actually one exception where the American version, despite not being fixed for PAL, is actually working better on PAL than the actual PAL version, and that's Arkanoid. The Arkanoid has been fixed for European releases, right? but the music isn't fixed. But what they fixed is actually it uses a raster scroll effect for the title screen, and that got PAL fixed, but not the rest of the game. So the music runs too slow. And here is the thing. And also, also, Arkanoid is, to my knowledge, the only game where they sold the European and the American version both in the European market simultaneously. So when you bought it in the stores, you didn't know which one you got.
Crapshoot, yeah.
Yeah. Either you got the European or the American one. And obviously, in the late 90s, the European one wasn't around anymore, and those stores sold new old stock of the American release, which actually means in Germany you could get the American release easier than the European release, and the American release played the music at the right speed, despite it was fixed for America, but the raster scroll title screen was jerky. But I mean, who needs a jerky title screen scroller? That doesn't really matter. So you actually had a better experience buying the wrong non-fixed for your region version than the actual PAL released for your region. It's super weird. And there's another example, but on the NES, we all know Robocop 3, very famous theme by Jeruntel. Here's another thing. The game Robocop 3 on the NES was released for the American market primarily, right? And Jeruntel, as we know, is Dutch, so he is PAL composer, right? And here's the thing, for the European release, right? They didn't remove the player speed adjustment. So
really?
Here's what happened. And I know it because I have both releases and I have both NESs. I have an American and a European NES. So here's the thing that happened. They hired Jeruntel from Netherlands to make the soundtrack of Robocop 3 one of the all-time known soundtracks of the NES ever. And even the ZZ4 version is very, very known because the ZZ4 version has a melody to it, while the NES version has the deeper bass, very, very deep bass, super deep bass.
Right.
So it's very much known for its strong bass. So to make up for the missing melody, because as we know, the NES has different sound possibilities compared to the waveforms it can produce compared to the SID chip of the ZZ4. So Jeruntel actually opted to make the sound a bit more bass-lastic to compensate for the missing melody possibility. Anyway, here's the thing. They hired Jeruntel for the NES, making an American release, fixing the music to run on NTSC perfect, right? And then afterwards, they made the European release, fixed the timing issues with the scrolling, so the graphics are smooth, the game runs on the same speed, right? Everything is nice and dandy, but they didn't remove the piece of code that slows down the music on NTSC NESs. That means the music is slowed down on PAL to even sound slower than it would on the original hardware composed. That means it's running in slow motion. Super amazing. And now you would think, oh, no problem. I take the PAL version, right? And just put it in NTSC NES, then I would have or a Famicom with an adapter, and you would have the same experience, but the right music speed. No, you can't, because then the fix for the scrolling and the game speed doesn't work, which means you all have graphic mess and garbled graphics, and in the middle of level 1, the game just crashes because it runs out of thruster time and it can't process all the calculations anymore going on for the graphics. And that is the reason, my dear, why I bought the NTSC release and an NTSC NAS for from Venezuela back then, because it was the only way of playing RoboCop 3 as it was intended to be, which is amazing. It's so such a fuck up from the company. It's amazing. I was like, who listened to that and thought like, yeah, that's good. Quality control succeeded.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a lot of these people that greenlight this have no idea what they're doing. You know.
Exactly. So when everybody is nowadays complaining about 0-day patches, unoptimized games. Another example, Summer Olympiad by Tyrant Software, Summer Olympiad 1988, right? Official release license for the Olympia, nice, right? I got the disc version, totally fine, no problem. Here's the thing, the disc version of the game has a bug. As soon as you put in more than one player name to compete, like 2 players, 3 players, 4 players, right, up to 8 players. As soon as you hit compete in all events, the program resets and starts from the title screen.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Right. And they never ever fixed the game. And that is why the first cracking group that actually cracked the game made a 101 release, because the crack was the only version where you could actually play the game against your friends. So when people complain about AAA games and nowadays games being not very bug free, they weren't bug free in the 80s or 90s.
Right.
And sometimes you could write to the software house or to the publisher and ask for a fixed version, and they would send out a replacement disk or tape, that data set, or in some cases you are just ending up with a broken game. Right? And there are even different versions of games depending on which version of the game you buy. For example, the game Cauldron, which is very famous because of the music by Richard Joseph, who unfortunately died a few years ago of cancer. They made the original game very, very hard to play, because as soon as you use the magic as a witch, you actually lose energy from a life bar.
Right.
Which is stupid, because you defend yourself and you are punished for it, right? But here's the thing. They made a compilation in France, right? In France, of both games, Cauldron 1 and Cauldron 2, which was actually called The Cucumber Strikes Back. And both games were in a compilation on one disc, right? And there they made the game easier. Yeah. So you wouldn't lose energy anymore when you play the game. So you had like a rolling dice, depending on what year you bought the game for your collection or whatsoever. You would get it harder or easier. There's so many not known stuff from from back in the day. It's amazing. It's really amazing, and I'm glad that I was able to get those rare versions, and figure out like, wow, Activision really did the better Last Ninja than System 3 themselves.
Yeah.
What a shame. What a shame. And Activision was actually not known for their good for their good American fixes. And here's the thing. I was talking about the NTC version of Last Ninja, right? Now, they even went above and beyond, right? And included a detection routine. That means when you run the American version of Last Ninja from Activision on the PAL machine, the game would actually run the native PAL version from System 3, but still with the loader from Activision. So Activision had a loader that had a copy protection for Last Ninja that was working on both drives. And as you might remember, when we released Scene World, there was no loading system that would run on NTSC and PAL likewise, which means our first 9 issues had no IAQ loader because there wasn't one around. But Activision in 1987 was forward thinking and made an NTC release that actually also worked on PAL and had a multi-region compatible loading system. Like, holy shit. And at some point between 1987 and the year 2000, this knowledge was lost and there was no such IAQ loader around anymore. You know? Knowledge was just lost. It wasn't around anymore. And it was actually Lasse Erni, Cadaver from Finland, who had to reinvent the wheel and make a multi-drive and NTSC PAL region compatible IAQ loader system from scratch. So we have to take into account that, you know, as a normal hired person from Activision 87, you couldn't care less if what you did runs on European machines. I don't even know why they bothered. But the NTSC version of Last Ninja is the better version on all machines. Doesn't matter if European or American. And it was like mind blown because I was sure the game would run crap and I was sure the game would crash. No, it didn't. You know, it's the same like Test Drive from 87 actually has a frame rate limiter included. So it runs on the super CPU buttery smooth. Like other games who also use vectors like Stunt Car Racer and Mercenary just run unplayable fast.
Yeah.
Exactly. So some coders, some developers in the 80s were really like forward thinking and really beyond and above.
Right.
And it's a shame that things had to be reinvented.
Yeah.
Anyway, just something I wanted to throw. Yeah, because people always only see things from nowadays perspective, but they forget that the 80s weren't much sweeter. And you couldn't just say like, I want a fix. There's like, you could get your money returned or keep owning the broken game, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we should probably get into the interview because we've been going for an hour and a half.
Really? No, it says 44 minutes.
Oh, maybe we've been on a call for an hour and a half. Maybe
yeah.
The recording.
All right, talk to you then.
Yeah, let's go over and talk to Tronimal.
Your Critter House. Tronimal, exactly. Today, we have your Critter House, aka Tronimal, aka Yogi, for the second time on the podcast. Hello, Jörg.
Hi, Jörg.
Finally,
Hey,
somebody's name I can pronounce.
I'll also be Jörg today.
Awesome. Yeah, perhaps let's start with the thing that really confused me 3 weeks ago. Why did you get a second name with Yogi? Wasn't Tronimal enough?
It's just my childhood nickname. So I try to personalize my accounts a bit because I'm working different projects, not only music, but I want to keep the Tronimal name for all my music projects.
I see. And today we will actually be talking about one of your projects, and that is why we are meeting together here. And that's actually your new album for the Virtual Game Boy.
Well, the Virtual
Boy.
Sorry, yeah, Virtual Boy. I anyway.
Well, that would be interesting. A Virtual Game Boy, you just have to like sit there and pretend to hold it, you know.
That's true. Yeah. So Virtual Boy, and interestingly, it's the first Kickstarter that I backed without having the actual device. So I will get the cartridge first, and then somewhere down the road getting an actual Virtual Boy.
You'll get a Virtual Boy.
It's funny because 2 other people already mentioned that. I think my usual European audience have kind of nobody has a Virtual Boy, right? But some of them backed the project, so they all kind of backing it and trying to get a device later.
Whoa, the battle on eBay.
Yeah, they didn't make too many of them, I don't think, did they?
Not that many, no. There are more games produced than consoles.
770,000 I'm seeing.
I don't know the actual numbers, but it wasn't a lot, no. And never came out on Europe, so that's why it's so rare here.
Which makes me wonder, are you now a competition to Remute, or why did you decide for an obscure platform?
Oh, I think I started before Reboot, right, in 2016 with my first cartridge album. And we had actually, I think at Revision, we had a longer talk about making music. And I mentioned that cartridge music is the kind of the best way to go, like for yourself, for the feeling. And he kind of went a bit overboard with it, right? So he made a lot of cartridge or whatever the devices take releases in the last few years, right?
Yeah, I mean that is basically how he afforded a living, especially to the pandemic, where you couldn't DJ and stuff.
Yeah.
So you were actually giving the brainchild of the idea.
Yeah, but I wasn't the first one. I was the first one, I think, who made at least a Game Boy album with kind of a box. It's not a real box. It's a cover card inside of a protection case. But there were at least some Game Boy module releases before. I think 2 of them. One was a Halloween thing called Heebie-Jeebies, I think in 2014. And there was something else. I can't remember. But there were some people before. And also in the Famicom scene, I know there were some albums that are pretty long on the market. I don't know when they came out because it's nothing I really owned or paid a lot of attention. But yeah, it must have been like 2000 or late 2000s or 2008, 2010. I would guess. I'm not sure about this. But we didn't start it. Yeah, we just made it.
Interestingly, when I bought for the first time an album from you, a cartridge for the Game Boy, you limited the amount to 50 units. And now in the Kickstarter of Robonaut, which is actually what the album is called, you said there is a limited run of 150. Why the limitation?
There are two reasons for it. The people that produce the PCBs for me are a small company. They can't do a lot of stuff, so we limit it to at least do 50 to start, or max of 150 to make it possible in a short amount of time to finish the product. The second reason is I'm running a so-called Kleingewerbe, so a small business in Germany, and I can't make more than, what is it, 23,000 or something like that in a year. Umsatz. What is Umsatz in English? You know that, Jörg? It's not
profit? I don't know.
Not,
probably not profit.
It's not profit. It's the other thing. The money you take, but it's not all earnings or profit.
Let's see, dictionary. They call it total revenue.
Revenue.
Revenue. Total revenue. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
or
the total
turnover. Or turnover.
I think turnover is, total revenue is something I know. So this total revenue is about 20,000, a bit more. So if I sell all these 150 cartridges plus a bunch of CDs plus my usual earnings from digital sales, I don't want to go over that limit, because then it gets really complicated with running a business here. You have to do a lot of paperwork on top and stuff, and it costs you a bit more. So it doesn't make much sense to go over that limit if it's just by a small amount. If you could double it or something, that would be fine, but just, I don't know, going over it for $2,000 or something wouldn't make much sense. So this is the second reason why it's limited. This is more the reason why the CDs are limited. Because usually I do 1,000 CDs, and there it's limited to, I don't know, 250 or something. So that I wouldn't usually do that, but for that reason I had to do it this year. Yeah.
And why don't you go full-fledged like Remote and go fully commercial and make a living out of it?
Fully commercial with a Virtual Boy release, I hope.
I mean in general with the Game Boy release and stuff. I mean in general,
I did it. It was my main job, right? Till 2018, and then I didn't want to do it any longer because it's such a niche thing that I did. So it was always like a struggle if I have enough money to pay my rent or not. In the winter, I earn less than in the summer because of the festival stuff and things like that. So I decided to do a normal job in 2019, and I went to work as a postman and full-time, and that sucked a lot. So I quit after a year, and now I'm doing a part-time, 20 hours a week job. So that pays my rent and my food, and then I can make the stuff that I really like, doing music and programming as kind of a hobby job in between thing again, but without having to worry, without having to push myself into stuff I don't really enjoy, without having to do all the paperwork for the main job and all that shit. Because I really enjoy working 20 hours a week for my normal job, and I work as I would work full-time. So I work 40 hours 1 week, and then I have 1 week off, and that is the whole year. I have 1 week off, 1 week work, 1 week off, plus my additional holidays. And that gives me enough time to work on projects without being stressed. And I really enjoy it that way, because I know if I would work one of both things full-time, I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I do now. So that's
interesting concept.
The reason. It's easy.
And why a Virtual Boy cartridge?
I wanted to do Virtual Boy music for a really long time. When I started gamer music, that was something I always wanted to do, but there was no software. Nobody had written any music driver, any public stuff. And that came out, I think, in 2021 by a team where I know one person I knew a bit better that did the font. And then I saw it, and I kind of forgot about it right away. And then I kind of remembered end of 2022. I was like, well, there's this Virtual Boy thing, and I'm running out of projects, so I could start. And in December, actually, I started, December 2022. And then I wrote with the main dev and how things work, if we can like customize it a bit, because it was only built to run a single song, to build a ROM with a single song and stuff like that. So we worked quite a bit together, and we also released the jukebox version on GitHub, so where you can make multiple songs with 3 songs of mine as songs you can use and look into, and it's all open source. And for other people that want to do that.
So it has nothing to do with your love for the color red.
Actually, I when I got my Virtual Boy, it was broken, and I played it the first time when I played it, it was because I built the virtual tab inside. It's a VGA connector, so I could play it in not 3D on my PC monitor, and I played it in white, black and white. So, but it's fine. I like it the way it is, and if you set it up correctly, it's not that bad. How you always hear, like, I don't get a headache at all or something like that. But you have to like adjust the lenses to your eyes. You know, there's a little adjustment to make, and most people put the stand backwards, so you have to get a really weird position to look into the headset. But if you actually put the stand the right way, which looks super weird, but it's the right way, trust me, you can tilt the headset downwards and you can look from above inside, and you don't have to sit in that weird way. And so it's all just a setup thing. If you set it up correctly, I would say most of the people are probably fine with it. But some people, of course, have just problems with 3D, also with modern 3D, right?
Right.
So
I take it. 1 second. So I take it the cartridge doesn't come with a paper bag. Just to make that sure.
What's paperback?
I mean, like in the plane where you have paper bags in case you throw up.
The paper bag. I was like, no, but I could if the Kickstarter is funded, I could include it, at least for you.
Because you mentioned you don't get sick when looking into it, so I thought it was a nice remark, you know. Anyway, AJ, you wanted to ask a question.
What is the sound hardware of the Virtual Boy like? Because I don't see anything online about that. Just that it's a 32-bit CPU, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's a 16-bit sound chip. It has 6 channels, so 5 channels plus 1 noise channel. The 5 other channels are kind of a bit like the wave channel on the Game Boy. It's a bit more advanced than the Game Boy channel, but the whole like effect command stuff and so is missing. So it's a thing in between, and also the range, the lowest note and the highest note. The lowest note is kind of high, so doing real bassy sounds is problematic. What I liked about it, because I always miss it, usually I'm doing Game Boy or other consoles that have at most 4 channels. I always miss to be able to play chords, and I really don't like arpeggios that much. So what I did for the Virtual Boy album is I played a lot of chords, so played 3 channels chords to make it a bit more bassy, and then took 2 channels for the melodies. So I work kind of similar as I would do on the Game Boy, but with chords added, kind of like that. And you can't find anything because nobody does stuff.
Right.
So you will be the first. Whoa.
I think if there was not a Japanese release or something, I couldn't find anything. There was a demo track for the actual engine. So there's 1 song that was made, but not like something that got really released. And I think there were 2 people who tried it, but one released only as a non-listed private video on YouTube. I found over Discord, and another one was someone who wrote the main dev a private message like, here, I tried something, here's the song, but never released it anywhere. So yeah, I guess I'm the first, and I think I must be the first who actually does a cartridge with that.
Wow. I remember in our first interview, where I interviewed you alone for the podcast, I asked you, why don't you go crowdfunding? And you were like, it's not your thing. You like to fund the projects yourself before you sell it. But now you're actually doing a Kickstarter.
I have to. Woo! I really have to. I don't want to. It's like it's so expensive that I can't make it myself, and I have to try to reach the American audience, because in Europe the Virtual Boy is so rare that I don't think I can get like 100 people to buy this thing. So I thought Kickstarter would be the only way to reach the audience I'm looking for, and I couldn't make a pre-sale on my own website for over 8,000 euros, right? Wow. The most expensive project I had before was around 3,000. I can't remember the exact number, but it must have been around that. So it's a huge difference, and I don't see another way, and I don't know if it will work out. We will see.
I mean, there's an American right there. So.
Yeah.
At least you reached one person.
Yeah, if you buy 80 of those cartridges, we're fine.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, I said it once. There are so many Kickstarters I would like to back. I would need a second job just for crowdfunding.
Yeah, I get it. I have to skip a lot of things also. I totally get it.
Yeah, that's basically the problem. But I mean, with your reputation and stuff, shouldn't be a big deal, right?
I don't think the people are scared of like losing their money, because it's my 10th physical album. So I know what I'm doing, and you can see all my older albums and stuff. So that's not the problem, but it's expensive. It's by far the most expensive release I've made. And it's so niche. It's a niche inside of a niche inside of a niche. You know, it's retro gaming, then it's the Virtual Boy, and then it's a music release. It's not even a game. You know.
Right.
So that means if you release 10 albums, that means I'm missing 7.
I have a few more, but there were digital only releases, and my very first release was a CD, but it was only given away at parties. I don't even have it myself.
Ooh, that's always a bad sign.
I don't know how many I made, so it was a small project. I also had a band project where we only did 23 CDs, and we sold them, pay what you want, and we made a lot of money actually for the amount of CDs we made. And I don't have these either, so they're all somewhere at some collectors or whatever, but it's fine.
Interesting. If I look at the rewards for the Kickstarter, you even have 2 Virtual Boy prototype cartridges.
Yeah.
That are still available. Another question is, why would you sell your prototype, and why 2 of them?
I made 2 just to test if it's fine, if it works, and I originally wanted to keep one. For you now, not in the podcast. Here's one of them.
Ooh, nice.
And I just figured that when I sell these and I have a normal one at the end, I don't care which one I have. Yeah, and then maybe it's for some collectors. Maybe it's interesting to buy a prototype, you know. And it's a little bit different ROM also. It's marked as a prototype, so you can't just fake the prototype, you know. And yeah, I made 2 because you never know if something gets damaged when you order something, or I wanted to keep one. I thought of keeping one and stuff like that. And we worked, 2 persons worked on the project, so I thought maybe I have to split it up or something. If it not gets funded, I end up with these 2 prototypes, right? Then I might keep one.
Yeah.
Give the other one to the main dev. I don't know.
I mean, I mentioned it before in this podcast a couple of times. I hope if you don't get funded that you either try again or try, for example, Indiegogo, where you have flexible funding, you know? Because I always find it weird when it's like one try and then, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, it's the minimum amount. The 8,000 and a bit is the minimum amount for me to get started. I can't do flexible thing because the flexible thing it has still to reach 8,000.
Right.
You know, There is no way around it. So if it fails, I don't know what I will do. I don't think I will restart the same campaign. I don't think that makes much sense. I will think about.
I mean, we had one case that was Dave Lowe where he actually restarted it 2 times, and the third time around it actually was successful.
Right.
I think the first time he had to stop because his original hardware broke down in the middle of the campaign, and he had to get it repaired first. And the second time, it failed at 95% of total funding.
Okay.
And that was so close that he was like, you know what? I try it again.
I think if I would end up at 95 or something, I would try to pay the rest myself, But,
making a fake account and then, okay.
Nothing can break. It's finished, So there is nothing that can happen.
That's
now.
good.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything is finished, right? The cover is finished. I have the prototypes. They're working. The songs are there. The only thing that is not finished is the booklet, because I'm thinking of writing some things inside the booklet that I can't do in advance. So that's the only thing that's missing. But other than that, it's all done.
And you even released an early beta ROM for free.
Yeah. I think people should be able to look into it if they like it or not. So of course I released kind of everything, but only 3 songs. So I released 3 songs on Bandcamp, 3 songs as a ROM on itch. The GitHub open source thing also has these 3 songs. So you can hear the songs, you can play it in an emulator or on your flash card, and you can look into it if you like it, right? You should be able to look into it. It's finished. Why should I block the people from looking into it?
Right.
Good point.
How many songs does it actually have on it?
Yeah.
What? How many songs does the final product actually have?
8.
Okay.
8 songs. I made around 11 or something, but I picked the 8 best songs that I liked most. And there were some unfinished songs as well that I started and then directly threw away. I always do this. So usually if I do Gameboy music, I make like 30 songs and I release like 10 or something.
So there is material for a follow-up.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I will do another thing.
Okay.
There is something I offered to the main dev to help him with his soundtrack for his game he's working on. But I don't think I will do another album. I want to start working next year and beginning of next year on a Game Boy game, so I won't have much time for that.
Oh.
An actual game?
Actual game, yeah, for the first time.
Wow.
Going away from the music scene a little bit. But I, of course, will do a lot of music for the game.
Oh, yeah.
But you did take part in a game before. That was Digital Retro Park game. You did the music for that.
I did the music, yeah. And I did a lot of sound effects for a lot of Game Boy games that came out recently. Because I offer these free sound effect packs for a Game Boy. And they are really popular. So I didn't even know the scene was so big. Because I think my first sound effect pack got like 5,000 downloads. And it's only... Yeah, you can only use it in Game Boy projects. It
right.
doesn't make sense to download it for other things. So I was really surprised that so many people are actually downloading it. Maybe people downloaded it twice or something. Then maybe it's still 3,000 people or something. It's still much more than I thought would be possible, And I hear them in a lot of demos and finished projects also. I always hear, oh, that's my sound effect, cool.
Does it contain a version of Oof?
Oof?
The Roblox sound.
There are no samples in there.
No samples.
Samples.
Too bad. Yeah.
But is Oof like the new Wilhelm scream?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That famous video of H Bomber guy where it starts out with a scream and then like ends in a 2 hours tale about Tommy Tallarico faking his career. Oh my god. Yeah. if I'm not mistaken, it's your first international release, right? Because I remember the last album I bought from you, I actually have it right next to me. You said you only made like 3 shipments outside of Germany or something like that?
If we talked about it recently, then that might have been about Japan, because I only sold 2 or 3 copies of all of my albums. I always sold something to Japan, but it was always a very small number. But yeah, most of my usual buyers are in Germany and Europe. So because I'm mostly known through the retro fairs in Germany and the Gamescom and stuff like that. So of course I have a bigger audience in Germany, and of course they also buy the most stuff.
Now, if you go America, you will be needing to fill a lot of CN22 custom forms.
Yeah,
I just have
you're
one
started
here,
about
right
the shipping to America.
I had to think a lot about the shipping costs and how to pack it for size-wise, because I had to calculate them, because the shipping costs differ so much. But I worked at the post office in 2020, so I know a little bit about it. And yeah, I also shipped CDs since, I don't know, 2015 or something. Sorry. So yeah, I've done it before, but actually the part there is a reason why I didn't want to make a normal Virtual Boy box, like package, because it's so much more expensive to ship it than shipping a CD and the cartridge alone with a protector case that you can fold and put it in an envelope, and then put some foam around and stuff. So I had to think about it a lot, but there is some emergency plan. If the funding gets high enough, I will update the package, and then the money will be enough to ship the bigger packets. So it's all
now the question is
1,000 times.
Does it have a battery inside, or will it be without a battery? I guess no batteries, right?
The game.
Yes, the cartridge.
It doesn't need a battery. It's just music. Why should I be safe?
Because that makes it complex for shipping. Because I figured out since this year, DHL no longer allows sending parcels with batteries to abroad. So there are only 2 shipping companies in Germany allowing that, which is UPS and FedEx.
Would they even acknowledge the tiny batteries in those things?
Most time not, but there are a lot of forbidden things to ship also inside of Germany. But usually you don't see it, because if it's. But I know this from a guy I worked together with multiple times in Australia. He always ships without batteries, even though the cartridges need batteries. Then he tells you, please buy it somewhere else and put them in yourself.
Yeah. And actually I found, which is totally weird, I found UPS for individual people lowered their prices. So now it's actually cheaper using UPS to send a parcel than DHL.
Huh.
So it's super weird. So I started shipping more with UPS because of the batteries, For example, when I sold my old iPhone and stuff, and then I figured out, hey, it's even cheaper shipping inside Germany. I mean, it's like 40 cents or something. The difference is not high, but I'm like, well, it's still cheaper, So, and if you're selling something on eBay, that makes a difference, because people like me, I'm always going with cheapest item price.
Yeah,
including shipping, and they're like 40 cents. Like, well, why not? So it's a bit weird. And also to explain it to our audience, like AJ, we have a few weird rules in Germany. Like since the 1st of January 2019, you are not allowed to send anything but wares in a letter. So letters may only contain documents. Right?
Yeah.
Since the 1st of January 2019. But here's a twist in the rule. It might be documents only, but it doesn't matter on which media the document is.
Yeah,
so it doesn't have
CDs.
to be. it doesn't have to be paper documents. It can also be a PDF file on a CD or on a flash pen drive. Which is totally weird. I'm like, why? So when I sent trading cards to Walter Day in America, I actually sent the trading cards as documents, and it passed through the customs check. I was like, wow. So those rules are super weird.
Yeah, just write a letter. Yeah, and put it with it in the envelope. And just say, here are the cards, you have to look at it, blah, 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 blah. So it's a document with something attached.
Exactly. That's exactly what I did. Exactly. Super. So the rules are super weird. So basically you can make a documentary on a VHS tape and send it as a document. So you can really bend the rules extremely. It's so weird.
Yeah, you might still be unlucky and get it back.
True. If true, but still, according to the rules, it's super weird. I had this discussion with Dr. Wuro before, Christian Kleinsner, and he's so unsecure about sending his one-liner basic magazines that he always sent them as a parcel. And I'm like, why? It's clearly a document, you know. Send them as a letter to abroad.
Just send them. If you get three of them back, it's still so much cheaper if you just resend these three or something. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, but anyway, the rules of German postal service is sometimes so weird it doesn't make sense. I don't know. Wow. Anyway, just a little tracking there. But I guess it has nothing to do with your cartridges, because that's clearly not a document by any stretch of.
Maybe the CD is a document. You know, there are also people that just back the CDs.
I actually had the case when I got a CD from Poland that the postal service opened the envelope and checked the contents of the DVD, and they even replaced the broken jewel case with a new one. I got an upgrade from the German postal service. How did that happen? You know,
would be quite tragic if it's a valuable collector's item, right?
Well, it was just a burnt CD. But I was like, but the Polish sender was like, oh, nice. So they actually replaced the broken jewel case. What a service! I mean, you must think there is actually somebody sitting in Germany opening that letter to make sure there are no trucks inside, and she's like, oh, it's broken, let's exchange it with a non-broken one.
Even if it gets opened by the sorting machines and you see this as a postman who is delivering, you have to like mark it, tape it back, put it in a plastic envelope, and then fill some forms and give it to the what is it? Empfänger.
Receiver.
Yeah.
Receiver. Yeah. But that they actually placed the jewel case with a new one. That was kind of an extra service.
They thought they broke it.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah. So nice. So it's good to see you are finally going international there, and wonderful. So are the shipping costs pretty high compared to the value of the cartridge? I mean, do you really have to spend a lot of money into that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have to calculate with worldwide shipping, right? So it's not like €5. It's a lot more. I can look it up. Give me a second. I think I have it here in my virtual folder, because I had to calculate everything so many times. I can't really remember, but it's like here, it's somewhere in here.
I'm just asking because a lot of Kickstarter projects actually put in a standard default value and then say additional shipping costs will be calculated by backer kit after the
shipping
project
costs
is successful.
Shipping cost is inside.
Whoa.
I have packaging and shipping costs. I have a percentage in the FHQ.
Oh, nice.
I have it all as single items, so I would have to recalculate to answer this really. But it's like the packaging and the paper that comes around, and the shipping cost is at least $16 for worldwide without the packaging. So it's quite a lot. I think it's $20 or something in the end for shipping.
It's pretty neat that you put that into consideration.
Yeah, you have to, right? Yeah.
Well, as I said, most Kickstarters are like, we are charging you for shipping after the Kickstarter is successful.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can answer what you asked me before for the Virtual Boy costs. Yeah. The shipping and packaging alone without the box or something is $150 plus 16, $17.50 plus 50, $18 minimum.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
To abroad.
To everyone, kind of. Yeah, to abroad.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And only the cartridge, without anything, without my shipping costs to get it and stuff, is $43.50, $44 kind of.
Wow, that's not cheap. Yeah, that's partly because it's
and then there is a CD, then there's the design, and there's a manual, and a little bit of buffer. Then there's a Kickstarter fee, and then you end up with around $80 production costs.
Wow,
and that's why it's $99 to sell it, right? Because I have to have a little bit of a buffer because something can go wrong, right?
Right.
Always. Right. One of these breaks and I'm fucked. I don't want to risk it. So if one cartridge gets damaged, then I have to repay it myself or something. I have to have a little bit of a buffer. And you always forget something. There's always like you make these calculations and then you buy all the stuff to ship it and then oh fuck, I forgot the packing paper. I forgot the I don't know what plastic wrap or something. Oh fuck, I forgot the actual cardboard box to ship it or every time I forget something. And with the last release, it was really funny. I made the Gameboy release and I had a buffer of $5. And at the very first day I'm starting the project, I realized I forgot something that is actually €4.90 for each.
Wow, you were lucky there.
Okay, that's the buffer. Now, hopefully I haven't forgotten anything else, but it worked out that way. Yeah, but the buffer was always needed. Every release I made, the buffer was just consumed immediately, and it will happen again.
I mean, if you forget something like a screw to close the cartridge, you can always glue it instead.
Yeah, then hopefully it gets warm and cold while shipping. I actually that with the screws is kind of funny because the people that design the cartridge for me, they have screws. They are too long, but they look like the originals. So you have to shorten them with a clipper. But I don't want to do this. So I bought other screws. I tried to buy them because I want to use them, but the rating on the screw size was wrong on their selling page. So I bought them and it was too small, and I wrote them, hey, they're too small. Oh, sorry, you made a mistake. And they sent the same too small shit again.
Ooh.
So I have to rebuy them. I only bought a few of them just to test if they're cool and if I like the. So I still have to figure out the screw thing because I don't. Let's imagine I sell 100 copies. Yeah, I have to cut down manually at least 200 screws. My hands will fall apart with these clipper shit, and then you will mess up a few of these. So you clip 250 or something of these. No, I don't want to do it.
And for simple things like screws, you would think you can get them in 1,000 sizes,
You can, but the sizes are wrong. They don't know how to measure screws because you measure screws with the what is it, thread?
The thread, I guess.
With the thread and not the pole in the middle, but they measured the pole in the middle and the length but on their site it's actually correct, but they sent you the wrong ones. So they also mentioned the size, the length of the screw, and they always sent the wrong ones. And they send it twice. I don't want to work with them again. I buy them somewhere else.
Sure.
If they are selling
Amazon.
screws, mainly selling these type of things, like a hardware store, and then they send you the wrong size twice. After mentioning they sent the wrong size, that's really that's not a company I want to work with, Just find a new one. And yeah, if it doesn't work out, it's fine, because I can use the original screws from the company that does the PCBs for me, but I really want to avoid. They are not expensive, so that's a good thing, because screws, if you buy like 500 screws, they cost almost nothing. So it's not that bad that they messed up. This won't eat up my buffer. This is the first problem, but it won't eat up my buffer. And I have to recalculate. It makes more work for me as well, right? I will prepare everything, calculate it, then divide it by 100 and see what it is, and then just add it to the overall value. And there will be a little bit of buffer if I have more customers from Europe, because it gets a little bit cheaper. As shipping to the US, for example. Shipping from the US to Germany is much more expensive than the other way around.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
So $20 is not that bad.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a lot, of course, it's a lot. Usually packaging or packing is also a lot of money, especially when you want to do boxes and you have to buy a custom stencil for the for the outline. I don't know the word to just stamp the cardboard. That's a lot of money as well. And if you do booklets, how many pages, how thick is the paper? That adds up a lot. And but the modules, the cartridges itself are of course pretty expensive, because there's no real production. It's not like Gameboy cartridges. You can buy them anywhere. Just like there's one single manufacturer person. Then there's another one, but he still has to buy stuff from the other guy.
Okay.
And then there would be a third option, because I asked a good friend who is always developing PCBs, and I asked him, would you do that? And he is, I don't have a Virtual Boy. And I said, if you would do that, we would just buy you a Virtual Boy. And he was like, if you can't find any other option, I said, I have two other options. That's fine. Then do this. And but I would have had three options if I wanted to.
So is the manufacturing happening in China or somewhere else?
No, in the US.
In the US, actually. Okay.
US, in the US.
I know somebody who would be very proud. So here it's not in China.
I don't know. There might be some parts. The chip might be from China. I don't know. This is the one thing that you can't get anywhere else, is the cartridge connectors. And they have to buy them somewhere as well. But if they were built in China by a typical Chinese company, then they would be around in AliExpress or something. You could find them, but you can't find them. So they're the only ones who are doing these weird cartridge connectors, because the Virtual Boy has a somewhat crazy cartridge slot. And when I first got mine, there's this cartridge connector, and then you have these little plastic thing that protects it. And you have to take it off and then put it into the Virtual Boy. But when I got my Virtual Boy, I didn't know that, because I have never seen a Virtual Boy in real life. So I just put the cartridge in that slot, but with the cartridge protector, and it gets stuck in the slot. So I almost broke the Virtual Boy in the first 5 minutes I got it.
Wow. Okay. That's actually a good hint when I get mine.
Yeah, the Virtual Boy is kind of the cartridges are kind of backwards, because a lot of times you'd have there's the edge connector on the cartridge, and that goes into the machine like on a regular NES or a Game Boy or whatever. But the Virtual Boy cartridges kind of have this kind of like the female connector on them, and the Virtual Boy itself has the edge connector. So it's kind of backwards from your normal
Yeah, it's a
consoles.
bit wrong way around. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's Nintendo, right? They are doing things a lot like this, you know.
Well, you'd think they'd be consistent with their own stuff because, you know, everything that they've ever done with cartridges anyway has been that way. It's been, you know, had the edge connector as part of the circuit board in the cartridge.
Yeah.
And then the console or Game Boy or whatever was just that female connector. Maybe they just didn't want people accidentally trying to put like Game Boy cartridges in there or something. Wanted to make sure it wasn't compatible.
You mean for the same reason Switch game cards actually taste bitter, so people don't lick on them?
Do they?
It's weird.
Yes, they do.
Oh,
They do.
never. Don't have a Switch, so never actually. If I did, man, I'd be trying that.
Of course, you would lick on the cartridge.
Hell yeah.
You like the bitter taste. It's fine. You lick on them all day. Buy them secondhand because yours don't taste anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, now we are going into the kink direction with this podcast. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, but perhaps let's talk a bit because you mentioned it 2 times, but we didn't talk about it. What's the difference between the normal packaging and the upgraded packaging if you reach 10,000 euros? Or was it 10,000 units?
No, 10,000 euros. Yeah.
10,000 euros.
Yeah, because I can't go with a minimal amount and I can't afford it, but I want to do it. So it's like the CD that I do has the exact same size as the front of an original box. Okay, so if I reach enough money, I will put in a protector case as well. I can show you here, but of course, if you're listening to the podcast, you can see it. So if you have the protector case and the CD inside, it's the exact same size as an original box. And because the inlays, this is a Game Boy inlay, because the inlays for Virtual Boy are kind of not really gettable, and when they're really expensive and not the best quality, I researched a lot and talked to some people that are active in the Virtual Boy community for a longer time, and I figured I would do some foam insert that is custom cut for the size of a Virtual Boy cartridge.
Wow.
So that's easy to ship. That's cool. And then you can put the CD on top, put it in the protector case, put the foam in the back, and you have like a holder for the actual cartridge. And you put the manual inside as well, of course. So you would have something that looks like an original box, but it has no backside, kind of. But it's still like protected and stable and stuff like that. So I would love to do that. I hope I can do it. I can afford it. I don't care if I pay from my like if I have a few European customers and there is a little bit of buffer, then I don't care if I put that buffer into the foam costs, stuff like that. You know, it's not about getting rich. As I said, my normal job pays my rent and stuff. Yeah, but I would love to do the upgrade. I would be fine. But if not,
that would be...
you know, it's still a lot of money that I have to get for the normal release. And I didn't want to make it more expensive just to include foam or include anything that is really additional, you know.
So what is the experience of it going to be? Because obviously, if you get the CD or a digital download or anything like that, you're going to be listening to the music. But if you get the actual Virtual Boy, if you've got a Virtual Boy, and you get the actual cartridge, what is that? Because it's obviously going to be more than just music, because you're going to have to select the songs or whatever.
Yeah. You can see it when you download on itch.io. When you download the ROM, you can put it in. If you don't have a Virtual Boy and a flash card, you can put it in an online emulator. That would be the easiest thing. And it shows the player kind of like a tracker, old school music tracker. So you see the channels running downwards, and you see the note values and the volume values and everything. And in the background, there's like a space background that is really in the background because it's a 3D device, you know. So the tracker notes are floating in the foreground, and there's space background thingy. And you can control the songs, of course. You can go skip the songs, but you can also adjust the tempo if you like to. Of course, they have an original tempo that they are supposed to run in, but you can make them slower or faster if you like, for whatever reason. If you're DJing or something, maybe you need another tempo. And you can also mute single channels, so you can listen to it without the drums or whatever. That is possible. It's just something like that we built into the jukebox release that was not specifically made for my album, but then we decided to keep it in there, of course, because it's just some additional functions. Maybe someone would like it. Also, why not let it in there? And you just see the songs, kind of the values of the songs and the notes running downwards. And you can preview it if you download the ROM, put it in the online emulator. The online emulator is really good. I linked it on the Kickstarter page. You can choose the colors, or if you see two single screens like it is on a real Virtual Boy, or if you want to like mix them for glasses, for these 3D glasses, these old school 3D glasses with blue and red or something. So you can look, you can see the 3D effect with that. Makes it a bit easier. Also, the Nafen emulator that I used for quick testing when I was working on it also allows that. So you can, or there's even a 3DS Virtual Boy emulator that also works, but the sound emulation is not 100% accurate. The online emulator I found out is the best. It's closest to the actual device. So if you want to hear it, kind of like it's on the original device, you can use the online emulator, or of course, hear my recordings. They are recorded from the original device.
Awesome.
Now I remember when I first bought a cartridge from you, I think it was like 10 years ago, you said you actually got permission to make a print of 50 units from Nintendo. So how about this time? Did you actually...
No, I don't have to read. It's not like a permission for a specific amount or something. I released this thing in 2016.
Oh, 16 it was. Okay.
So I wanted to make sure that it's fine, that I'm cool, and I would have loved to use the original logo and stuff. So the Game Boy font and the Nintendo logo and stuff. So I asked Nintendo Europe, it's not Nintendo Japan or something. And they told me I can't use the logos, no chance. There are so many people requesting it, and they don't even have time to look into it. You know, they won't do it. They won't do it. Maybe if you throw a lot of money on them, but I don't think even then that would be possible. So they just said, no, you can't do it, but you can, of course, release something that is made for the platform. That's not a problem. That's not illegal or something. You can't write that it's licensed by Nintendo. You can't use the fonts, the original logos and stuff, but everything else is fine. So I said them, okay, I will just write that it's not licensed by Nintendo specifically, and just don't use any logos at all. Not even something that is like look-alike, you know, like some people do, like then Nintendo seal of quality, they write something like, I don't know, chiptune seal of quality or something. I did that with my very first Tronimal release as well. It's digital only. There are some, it's kind of like a tribute to old Game Boy games. So I used a lot of these graphics and changed them. So I've avoided this with a 2016 card release because of that reasons. And of course, I know it's the same thing for my Virtual Boy release, you know. I can't just write, hey, this is licensed by Nintendo. Hey, here's the Nintendo logo. Yo, this is all official. Let's push it. So I just went the safe route, kind of. I used actually a remade Virtual Boy font for the front, just to write a Virtual Boy music cartridge. I don't think that's a problem, but in theory, that might be kind of an edge case scenario.
Interesting. Actually,
plus, if you contacted Nintendo and asked them about the Virtual Boy, they'd be like, "Virtual Boy? What's that? Never heard of that."
Yeah, it wasn't really a sale hit. That's right. Interestingly, a few months ago, I saw a YouTube video about the logo used in the Game Boy, which is actually part of the anti-piracy protection.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think the two of us privately had a conversation about it. And nowadays, it's actually known how to work around it and replace the Game Boy Nintendo logo with something custom made.
I did it, yeah, for my latest release on the Game Boy for the Digital Retro Park soundtrack release. I did a soundtrack release without the game. There is not the Nintendo logo falling down. There's a small emoji falling down. It has to have the same size, so it has to fit in the same room as the Nintendo logo. It can be smaller, but it has to fit in there. And it still shows the R, the what is it? Trademark? No, trademark is TM.
Registered.
Registered, yeah.
Registered trademark, yeah.
So this is still falling down. The R is there's. If you don't have a game in the Game Boy, there will fall down a black.
The bar,
black bar, but the R is there. The R is not part of it. So the Nintendo font actually is checked, and if it's correct, then the game will start. And if it's incorrect, the game will not start. Sometimes you see the scrambled graphics because it's dirty or something, then the game won't start. That's just the piracy protection, the copyright protection thing kicking in. But it is actually, I don't know when this happened, but it is allowed to use it because it's kind of, it was stated as unavoidable to not use, so you can't really find a way around it. There is a way around it, but it's also not really a way around it because you have to load in the Nintendo logo for the copyright check to pass and then replace it super quick. So in that case, what I made with the module is like the emoji is falling down, but before you can see it, it's actually loading the Nintendo logo for a really short amount of time. So the copyright protection will not kick in, so it will actually start. And it is a bit, it can mess up. If you restart the games too quickly, it will mess up the loading. So it's not a perfect way, but I thought it's cool. It's possible, so I will do it. And then I'm like super safe that time, There wasn't even the word Game Boy written on the cartridge or the box or anything at all, I thought I'd make it this way.
I mean, the Game Boy games history is kind of interesting because there are so many things people normally don't know. There are 2 games for the Game Boy. I remember one game was Road Rash because I bought it. That only work on the original Game Boy or the Super Game Boy cartridge, but not on the Game Boy player on the GameCube or Game Boy Advanced. So there's something weird about Road Rash and that other game, which name I don't remember, that only makes it playable on genuine Game Boys. It's so weird, and it's supposed to be this way. It's not like the game is broken or something, but it's weird, and so it's interesting that
you can make a device check if you start a game. So if you just allow if you say like device check DMG, so original Game Boy, and you can block the others out or the other way around. It was made with the color games, right? If you put a color game, a real color game, not a black card, inside of a Super Game Boy or Game Boy Pocket, it will show, hey, this should only run on a Game Boy Color.
Right.
And it also works the other way around, but it's usually not done the other way around because it doesn't make much sense. But there is stuff. There are also homebrew things with weird add-ons, kind of add-ons to the hardware that only work in one single device. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Which makes you think why Road Rash and that other game, I don't remember, why they decided to make it only runnable on an original Game Boy.
Because I just looked it up. It uses a hardware bug present in the early models, but were fixed by later releases. So it's only locked to those early models.
Okay. Here we have the answer. Okay. And obviously they kept the bug in the Super Game Boy cartridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super Game Boy is kind of a Game Boy, the Game Boy motherboard.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a Game Boy and
right, but
it's more a Game Boy than an adapter.
Yeah, they fixed the bug with the Game Boy Color.
So that is why. And so the developers were smart enough to lock out them because of that. Okay.
I think it just bugs out. I don't think they did it on purpose. I think it just bugs out on the later consoles because they were
Yeah, so they excluded that in the check.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I wish I knew what the second game was that doesn't run on anything else but the original Game Boy. But I know one of them was Road Rash.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing is, I bought it from Konsolenkost Berlin from eBay, and they actually wanted me to send it back because they advertised it as Game Boy game, Game Boy Advance. And like, no. I want it because it's one of two games not running on anything else but the original Game Boy. I want to keep it. So super interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so has the Virtual Boy a similar theme, like a copy protection, or is it not like that? Is it not less complicated?
I'm not sure. It shows the Virtual Boy logo at the beginning, but to calibrate the screen and stuff, I don't know if there's actually a protection function.
So you didn't tamper with it. Okay.
I'm kind of new into the Virtual Boy scene, right? So I'm doing Game Boy stuff for, oh my god, since 2008. So I know a lot more about Game Boy hardware and software than about Virtual Boy. And yeah, of course, I wasn't the main dev for the whole sound thingy. I just wrote the music and the instruments, and I changed a few things. The one funny thing was actually I got the first revision of the player, and you write with an external tracker and make it like compatible, and then convert it into Virtual Boy format. And I wanted to do custom instruments, and there was I think it was a Python script that can do it. You paint a waveform that you want to have, and then you can convert it into actual data that the Virtual Boy can read. But for me, it was so difficult to paint it because I wanted some so specific things in the waveforms to happen, and I know how to type waveforms in hex or binary values, that I asked the main dev, so hey, is there no way to just hack it in and just write them down? I don't want this conversion. I know that's meant to make it easier, but for me, actually, that's not the case. So yeah, and then we figured a way that I can just write them down in hex values, so I could actually get the waveforms and test them if they really sound the way I think they should sound. That was kind of funny. I don't know. I don't know the reason that came up in my head right now, but yeah. So there are some tools to make it easier, and I went the other way around and make it harder for me, but just to have more control. Yeah, and yeah. I mean, when I first did Atari music, I did music for the Atari 2600, a few songs, and when I made my first songs, I actually had to write the song in assembly, but there was a kit, so there was like a pre-made construct to make it, and all the instrument data has to be written in binary. That was also really crazy when I first did that, because it was years ago, and I didn't have much experience in that. Then you have to write instruments in binary format. That is really awesome. Like, you learn a lot. A lot. I really learned so much by doing 1-bit music, specifically for the ZX Spectrum and calculators, how to actually really control my synthesizer, because you get so to the heart of the of sound sound making that you understand also modern synthesizer or more modern programs or platforms, gaming platforms, how they work. That is that's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, because the Spectrum just had kind of like a beeper, right?
Yeah, the Spectrum has no sound chip, kind of. It's all made by the processor, by the Z80 chip. And yeah, it only has a beeper, and but there are some absolutely wonderful tools. So you don't have to know nothing about programming these days to have like multiple music engines for the ZX Spectrum. There's a really, not a really large scene, but a really active scene with some people that really threw out a lot of music engines for this one system. So you can really make there is these, how is it called, octa something. You can have 8 channels from the beeper. Yeah, that was a really an early thing. You can have like phasing effects. They figured out how to do volume control. That actually works like, if you start the beeper, usually the beeper can just do one sound. It just can do a beep at a certain frequency, right? So they changed the frequency by turning it off and on a lot of times. So if you turn it off 440 times in a second, you have 440 hertz. So you have an A. And of course, if you turn it on and off 880 times, you have an octave higher sound. And they figured like if they turn it on, but they turn it off before it actually turned on fully, because the speaker takes a while to expand, they can have a lower sound, lower volume. So they tricked with that. And it's a lot of like layering waveforms. So they have multiple channels, or just put all these on and offs like slightly offset. So it sounds like there were multiple channels, and a lot of crazy tricks.
I know. PC speaker works the same way.
I remember reading about lots of early PC people that were making music by having a switch between instruments so fast that you can't discern it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there were some prime examples, like Zack McCracken even has a snoring sound at the beginning of the intro for the PC speaker. I'm like, holy cow, they even made that happen.
Yeah, I also heard samples, beeper speaker samples, which is really crazy. And the calculator tracker that blew up a few years ago for the TI 82, 83, 84 calculators, as graphic calculators. It has the same chip. It has a Z80 chip inside. And it has actually an audio connector jack, but it's for data export usually. But they just rerouted it kind of and made it audio out. So you can make beeper speaker music with these calculators with custom software.
Wow.
And it's portable. That's the thing that's cool about it, because the guy that made it made Spectrum music before, and he always had to carry a TV and a Spectrum to concerts, and then he ported all his songs to the calculator. And we were so amazed that we kind of talked to him every day. He should make a native tracker for the calculator, so you can actually also write the songs on the calculator itself, and he did it. And the second version, Houston Tracker 2, it's really, really good. It's incredible. It's better than most of the ZX Spectrum trackers that I've seen, or even anything else that I've seen. So it's like, it's really powerful for what it is. You have a lot of options. It's crazy.
Wow.
Just to mention, by the way, wavetable sounds on the PC speaker, however, have one disadvantage, and that's the very high static noise coming with it.
Oh yeah. It always sounds a bit shit and harsh to the ears.
Like holy cow,
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm 42, I don't hear it anymore, but 25 years ago I was like, holy shit, that's awful.
There might be some ways to reduce it. So we have the same problem with wave samples on the Gameboy, and we found ways to reduce it in, I don't know, weird ways to turn it on and off at exact timings. So I don't know, some stuff doesn't happen. I don't know how it works. I just I read it 2 times, and then I send it to people that actually do tracker stuff for the Gameboy, and I send it to them and say, here you got the information, you know what to do. I don't get it, but maybe there are there are ways to do this with a PC as well, because I know there was a lot of sound and noise reducing for the calculator tracker. So I think something similar should be possible on all platforms.
Or you get older, then you don't hear the higher waves.
It will always sound a bit harsh. So there's no way around it.
True. Okay, now we derailed a bit into other platforms than the Virtual Boy.
That's okay.
I did a lot of music projects, so I always tend to, how is it called? Abschweifen a little bit.
Derail.
Yeah, derail. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, so it will be out in November, and as I saw, you actually wrote it could be until January next year in the worst case.
Yeah, with
so
shipping.
You have a bit of buffer there. Okay.
Yeah, it's about this. I don't know how fast the company will be that do the PCBs. So I have to wait for them, of course, and then before that I can't start like testing them, screwing them together, because I get all single parts, you know. Then I put the stickers on and make all the
handmade
stuff. Then the thing is, if there are 50 people that will buy it, it will be a lot less work than if there are 150 people or 300 people that will buy it. So It will take me more time, and I know how much time goes into it, because I did these awful things like doing the digital Retro Park soundtrack for the Game Boy, and even fold and glue and cut the boxes myself. It was awful. I will never do that again.
Wow.
But yeah, it will take a bit of time. And I don't know how fast the production will be exactly. So I have to have a bit of a buffer, you know. Yeah, but it's all ready. So the whole thing is ready. It's just only the production and the shipping. Yeah. And I can't ship everything on one day. Even if I would pack it all on one day, I can't do this to the post office. They will just punch me in the face for good reason. So it will take a few weeks, maybe, for getting everything shipped, the first to the last package, if it goes well. If it goes well, I'm a bit, I'm a bit not really worried, but I don't know if it will work out or not. I can't really.
I mean, right now you have 24 backers, and it just the first day has passed. 28 days to go. So and you already have 1,500 pledged of 8,500. So it's looking pretty good.
We should mention that as of recording, there's 28 days to go. There will be fewer than that by the time you hear this.
Yeah.
Right. But it's looking very promising.
I hope it will work. I really hope.
Yeah.
Because I want to have this thing myself. That's the main story, you know.
Right.
If I was you, I would be more worried about shipping on the fourth quarter because of Christmas. So many things is getting lost in the post.
Yeah, that thing is why I wrote January, because I work for the post office. I know how it works in December. So if I can't do it in November, I will try to avoid shipping in December.
Exactly.
Yeah, because not only because I'm worried that something will get lost, also because it's too much work for them already. I don't have to put the stuff in there. It's not a Christmas related release. People don't have to have it on Christmas, you know. They can have it on January or in November. That's fine.
I mean, you can pack in a little chocolate Santa and give away.
And then it melts and the whole thing. That's awesome. Yeah. Good idea. Yeah, good idea.
I mean,
I will do it only in your package. I will do it. I will as a buffer material. I won't take paper. I will take chocolate. Okay, so I will wrap it all up in chocolate. And you please tell me how it arrived.
Fill with chocolate syrup so it's pre-melted.
Yeah, of course I will pre-melt the chocolate and put the cartridge inside and let it dry, so it's really good protected, you know.
I mean, kid you not, there has been a similar case like that with Peprium 4 years ago, because he put a metal shielding with hot glue in the cartridge, and he said that that the shipping company actually, by the temperature variation in winter, the glue actually melted, and then the metal plate was flying around in the cartridge.
That's some serious
shit.
temperature to melt hot glue.
Exactly.
That's
It was
not
like,
easy.
I was like, what kind of cheap glue did you use? And so I was lucky. I had this bit to open the cartridge and
Yeah.
refixate it, because I don't want a shortcut, by metal hitting some components on the PCB. But I was like, who is designing it like that? Why would you even do that? I have no idea. But I was like, a cartridge that's rattling, that's never a good sign,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I would put something in yours. Some rattled surprise. No, there's actually not enough room in a Virtual Boy cartridges to put anything inside.
Yeah.
They are really thin.
I mean, why would you even do that? I don't get it. But he wrote like, yeah, you can leave it like that, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to leave it like that. No way, no way.
Yeah.
No,
I wouldn't do.
So it is a nice joke, but there's actually some truth behind it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so I guess we got it covered pretty much.
Where can people find out about this and follow along with the Kickstarter and everything?
The Kickstarter, of course, it's on Kickstarter. My account name is Tronimal, and the project is called Robonaut. Otherwise, tronimal.de is my homepage, and there's kind of a link tree directly on the welcome page, so you can find all the links. You can find also all the links in the Kickstarter itself that show you where the open source release is and where the HIO thing is and everything. I'm everywhere on every social media thing. I'm where I have an account, which is pretty much all the basic sites. I'm always called Tronimal or Yogi Tronimal. So you will always find me if you just search for Tronimal, even if you type it into Google or something, because I'm kind of the only one with the name. You can find 2 other persons, maybe, if you search enough, but they have nothing to do with the retro scene, so it's quite easy to differentiate. Just search for Tronimal, and I can wait. Let me look up the actual Kickstarter link.
Kickstarter actually has a shortcut link, but I have to say I almost never use them because it's so complex.
Yeah, but it's easy. It's kickstarter.com/projects/Tronimal/Robonaut, and then you're on my site. Awesome. It's all real words, you can kind of type it down. Yeah. Otherwise, awesome. I'm on Twitter, Mastodon, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I will skip the rest, but Bandcamp and Itch, and you can find it.
Yeah. So be quick, because it's limited to 150 units, as we learned. Yeah.
We'll put links to everything you just said in the podcast description below or above, wherever we happens to be.
Yeah, actually, we already did for the last one, for the Gamescom special, because I think it was the first time you announced it. Was at Gamescom, right?
I was playing at the NCon. It's a little Nintendo fan convention in September last year. And I played a few of the tracks. They were not finished, but they were finished enough to play them. And I had the first version of the cover artwork I had actually last year on the Gamescom with me already. So I announced there will be a Virtual Boy album somewhere, somewhen, kind of. At some time there will be something
in this universe.
Yeah, but the first real concert with the actual thing linked and stuff, that was on the Gamescom now. Yes.
Awesome. Alrighty. Bye, Jörg.
Bye.